Hi, Peter. Since we didn't end up having a session today, I decided to record for you some tips since you specifically asked about when you're giving a presentation to a group of people and you don't know any of their names, you don't really know them, and you're trying to connect with them more. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, I would recommend first off starting with a warm greeting. Acknowledge your audience as a whole. Use phrases like good afternoon, everyone, or hello, everyone, to create a friendly, inclusive atmosphere. Also, smile and make eye contact with different parts of the room to create that feeling of connection. So, you might start in the center, be talking there, turn slightly to your right. Rule of thumb, wherever that corner is, don't let your nose go past that corner. Directing here, talking to them for a bit. You can go back to the center, turn over to the other side, chat with them for a little bit, come back to center. That makes everyone in the room feel like you're connecting with them. Also, depending on how high up people are, if they're up in a balcony, be sure to lift and include them as well. When you're looking up above, I like to say, okay, where are my top people sitting? I look just above their heads. And when you look at those people, somehow everyone feels included. But if I tilt my head down, then everyone above that feels disconnected. So lifting up, and all the people down here and up here will feel included. Also, be sure that you introduce yourself confidently. When you first start, begin by briefly introducing yourself. This is going to establish your credibility and it gives the audience a sense of who you are as a person. So, for example, hi, I'm Vandy Enzor, and I'm excited to be here today to talk about, and then you put that topic in. So, and I'm excited to be here today to talk about connecting with your audience when you don't actually know them. All right. Also, be sure that you use inclusive language. Since you don't know their names, avoid addressing specific individuals unless absolutely necessary. Use phrases like you all or everyone here. Example, I know all of you are here because, and then you put in that common interest related to your topic. So I know all of you are here because you have this problem, or you want to learn about this, or you want to learn about my company, right? So you can put that in there, whatever that topic is. So I know you're here today because you want to learn about making your audience feel more connected to you when you don't actually know them. Also, you can make it interactive. You can engage your audience by asking open-ended questions or for a show of hands. I like to do that. You can say, how many of you here, da 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 da, and they can raise their hand. This can help you gauge their reactions and also their involvement without needing to know their names. Also, you can ask rhetorical questions that don't necessarily need an answer. Whenever you ask a question to an audience, people are going to think of their answer in their head, even if they don't have to say it back to you. Example, how many of you have experienced dot, dot, dot? And then they raise their hand, or raise your hand if you agree with, and then you say a point that you're making, and then you see how many raise their hands. Also, another great way to get people engaged and feeling like they want what you have is to ask questions that the answer is yes. This is actually a sales technique. So you start by saying something that gets them to say yes. So something like, you could ask about the weather. I know that is, people say it's cheesy to ask about the weather, but if you ask something like, did everybody see that rain outside? Yes, they did see that it was raining on their way in, right? So that's an easy yes. And then you ask another question like, man, isn't it obnoxious when you spent a whole bunch of time fixing your hair and then it rains on it and messes it up? Every woman in there, and probably some of the men, are going to be like, yes, that is annoying. So then you can be like, wow, I have the solution for you. We designed this thing that's going to help protect your hairstyle. Right? And then they're going to go, I need that in my life because they've already given you two yeses. It opens them up for that third yes, and it makes them feel more connected to you. Little easy way to engage them and get that sale if you're selling. Another thing to do, focus on eye contact. So instead of trying to learn names, focus on making eye contact with different people throughout the room. This is going to help to personalize your speech and it shows that you're speaking to everyone as an individual. So shift your gaze around, address various sections of the audience. Don't linger too long on any one person because it can make some people feel uncomfortable. If people dart their eyes away and don't want to look at you, that's okay. Just shift over to the person next to them. So you look at them and they quick look down. So I just move over to this person who looks like they're more engaged and is smiling, and I'll talk to them. They get excited about it, right? So find the people who look more open, especially. But you can look at the people who look less engaged too. That might help them to get more engaged. But if it seems like there's someone that it makes them nervous, just move to the next person. Also, think about the fact that your body language is going to communicate tons with people. So use that body language to be very open. Stand confidently, use open posture, use natural gestures. This is going to convey a confidence and it helps you to engage your audience visually. Also, if you have the room, move around if the space allows, but avoid pacing as that can be distracting and awkward. Also, practice name free engagement. So, what is that? Since you don't know names, use nonverbal cues and general acknowledgments like, I see someone nodding, or it looks like some of you agree. This makes people feel seen without requiring that you say names, right? Sarah's nodding, right? I don't know her name, right? So you say, I see someone nodding over here. Looks like some of you agree, right? And so that makes them feel seen. It makes them feel heard. It makes them feel engaged and acknowledged, even though you don't know their name. Remember to pause and breathe. If you feel nervous, take deep breaths, use pauses to collect your thoughts. Pauses can also help to emphasize key points and allow the audience to absorb what you're saying. Use a strong closing for your presentation as well. Wrap up your speech with a clear conclusion and a call to action. So, thank your audience for their time and attention without needing to know individual names. Example, thank you all for being here today. I hope that you found this information helpful, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Right? So you're opening them up to even more connection with answering questions or a call to action like, I would love to connect with all of you. Please reach out via, and then you can give them a social media handle or a contact, a website, a way that they can engage with you later. Or I'd love for you all to scan the QR code here up on the screen if you have a presentation, a slideshow. And I'd love for you guys to let me know what you think about XYZ. Maybe it's a little quiz at the end, or let us know how our company can help you more. Things like that. Also, remember to be yourself. Speak naturally, be authentic, let your personality come through. People will connect with you based on your message and your energy, even if they remain strangers at the end. So, focus on clear communication, inclusivity, engagement, and you can give a confident and successful speech to a group that you really don't know personally at all, right? They're all strangers. You also mentioned sometimes being on Zoom for presentations, and Zoom is actually a really great place if you don't know names because they can list their name when they sign in. So you can see with their names or when they comment in the chat, when they answer a question in the chat, when they do the raise their hand button, any of that, you can actually see their name. So then you can call out their name when you're talking to them specifically. Or you can say, hey, I would love for Mark to tell us da 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 da. He has some things to share there. I saw you had a question, whatever that is. So you can address them by name. Tom, Caroline, whoever they are. With your Zoom, you can do a lot of the same things that you would do in a live presentation. The difference is going to be that instead of having your full body that they can see and interact with, they just have your face and your head, your shoulders, a little bit of your hands if they come up into the frame. So, remembering that your eyes are what are communicating mainly. The eyes are the window to the soul, making sure that you tilt your chin down a little bit. That'll help your eyes to stay more connected with the camera. And be sure that you stay in a nice, strong frame with that headshot. All right. So remembering to be expressive with your face because that's all they have. They can't see if you cross your arms or you put your hands on your hips, anything like that. You shift your weight to another hip, just staying with all that energy right here, just like a film actor. So, just like in a regular presentation that's live, you'll start with a warm virtual greeting. Start by welcoming everyone with a simple and inclusive greeting like, hello, everyone. Good morning to all of you joining today, something like that. Acknowledge that it is a virtual space by saying something like, thank you for taking the time to be here online today. Right. And that will again help them feel included. Introduce yourself clearly, since people may not know you either. Introduce yourself confidently and give context about your role and the presentation topic. Example, I'm Vandy Enzor, and I'm here to talk about connecting with your audience even when you don't know them personally. I'm really excited to share some insights with you today. All right. So that's a good example, and you can build off of that. So put your name there, and I'm here to talk about blank. I'm really excited to share my insights with you today. And you've got it. Engage with your group using chats and polls. Since it is on Zoom, you can use interactive tools like polls, the chat feature, or reaction emojis to engage participants without needing to know their names. Example, feel free to drop any questions in the chat as we go along and I'll address them during the Q&A, right? So you're telling them as we go through the presentation, any question you have, just pop it in there and I will go through them at the end and address those questions. Or throughout, you can ask for a show of hands instead of having them physically lift a hand. They can actually use the little button to pop up a hand as well. So those are fun ways to engage. Or you could say, if you da 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 da, use this emoji. If you this, use this emoji. And it can be a fun way to see who does this, who does that. You can also do a poll and just poll everyone in the presentation. Now, acknowledge that you are in a virtual environment since virtual presentations can feel disconnected. Mention it by saying something like, I know we're all joining from different places, so let's make this as interactive as we can. Encourage your attendees to unmute or use the chat if they want to contribute to the conversation. Keep eye contact with your camera. When speaking, look directly into the camera to simulate eye contact. It makes it feel more personal for the audience. This helps you connect with the group, even though it's virtual. And I know it feels kind of funky for you as an individual, but when you look directly into the camera, they feel like you're looking directly at them as a person. Use general acknowledgments. Since you don't know names, use phrases like, I see some nods, or it looks like a few of you agree when acknowledging audience reactions or comments. And this is going to help build rapport without needing to single anyone out by name. Ask for participation as well. If appropriate, invite people to turn on their cameras and engage in conversation by saying something like, feel free to turn on your camera if you'd like, or just give me a thumbs up using the Zoom reactions. This helps make the presentation more interactive without knowing names. Also, be comfortable with silence. Virtual presentations can have delays, so if you ask a question, give people time to respond in the chat or to unmute themselves. It's normal for there to be a slight pause, so try to get comfortable with that silence. Take a deep breath, maybe count to 5 in your head before you go on. Use name labels when available. On Zoom, participants' names are usually displayed. You can refer to individuals by name if you spot someone contributing in the chat or asking a question. Example, I see that Jordan has a question in the chat, or thanks for that point, Sam. That was really helpful. I love that insight. Also, be attentive to nonverbal cues. Some participants may use reaction icons like the thumbs up, clapping, etc., or they might nod along. Acknowledge these cues by saying something like, it looks like a few of you are agreeing, or I see some thumbs up, that's great. Provide clear instructions for the Q&A. Set up clear instructions for asking questions. For example, at the end, I'll open it up for questions, so feel free to use the raise hand feature or type your questions in the chat. Also, conclude with a clear wrap up. End the presentation with a strong conclusion and thank everyone for their time. Example. Thank you all for joining today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me after the presentation or drop them in the chat. Bonus tip, record and share. If it's appropriate for the context, you can record the presentation and let the audience know at the beginning. This way, they can revisit the material later if needed. Example, I'm recording this presentation, so I'll be sending out the recording afterward if you want to review anything. By making your presentation engaging and interactive without focusing on names, you can create a seamless and professional experience for your audience on Zoom or in person. I hope these tips are helpful. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks, Peter. Bye bye.